Hey all.
Good, how are you?
Hi, everybody.
Lee, that doesn't look like Michigan.
Hey, Lee,
Well,
how
it
you
doesn't.
doing?
That's for sure.
That's not one of the Great Lakes.
Nope, we're in Hawaii for the winter.
Yeah.
Nice.
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 For those of us who are old enough, Monica Diamond Caravello is the center square. She's the Paul Lynde of Farmingdale right now.
Monica.
Okay, Monica better be funny then. Got some big shoes to fill from Paul Lynde.
I love the Simpsons background. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's me, Justin. I know my wife's name is displayed, but
Hi, Mike.
Hi, how are you, Michelle? Good afternoon.
Mike O'Rourke, as I live and breathe. Welcome
Wow,
back.
look at this.
Bill, hi, Bill.
Hi,
How are
John.
you?
Hi, everybody.
Hi, John.
Hi, Bill.
This is great. It's like a reunion.
Yeah, hi, Matt.
The gang's back together.
That's right.
Hey, Michael.
We miss
Hi,
you
Hey,
all.
Bill. Hey, John.
Good afternoon.
Good. Fantastic. We got a great crowd tonight.
Well, that's good.
We'll get started in a few minutes. We'll just let Nat continue to let everyone in from the waiting room.
Harvey Crone, I dropped your name today. I don't know for what reason. If you want me to pick it up, I will.
okay.
Is it leveling out, Nat?
Yep, everyone can now pop directly into the room as well. So
Okay, great. We opened it up.
Great.
Then I think we'll get started, right? Monica, if this was a class, would you start right now? It's 2 minutes after.
All business. I would have started 2
business.
minutes ago.
Right. Great, thank you all. We will get started. I'll ask that we start on mute. But certainly everything you saw as you entered is everything we hope and expect it will be throughout the evening. I'll give some short opening remarks and we'll get started. It's great to see everyone tonight. It truly is. And the energy that you just brought through the screen actually makes it feel like we're together in one room. And that's all of the energy that I was introduced
from
when I arrived at
University
now, not long ago. So my name is Matthew Colson, for those who haven't met me yet, and I look forward to meeting you. I'm the new Vice President for Development and Alumni Engagement here at Farmingdale, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to this special program that we truly have prepared just for you, our loyal and generous alumni, colleagues, and friends who support the college with your philanthropy. And so let me start by saying a sincere thank you for your support, for all that you do, and the reason we can carry out our mission to be an engine of opportunity for Long Island and beyond is because of you. It's that simple. We can't do it without your help. So thank you. If we were in person tonight, this would be when I point to where the exits are and where the restrooms are. I hope you know where your restrooms are. So instead, I'll point to the mute button. Turn it off, be on mute, but also because 12 months later, we're all in these meetings and we're telling people you're on mute. We still have not remembered to unmute ourselves. You will be called upon. You will be able to raise your hand and chime in and participate in the conversation. And at that time, Mimi, Michelle Johnson, our Director of Alumni Engagement, will be moderating the chat. So if you comment in the chat and you don't want to speak, she will relay the message and interrupt us. But also you could say, I have a question I'd like to ask, and we will call on you to unmute yourself. And so we hope you'll keep your cameras on, but it's not required. This will be recorded because some people might miss it. You might want to watch it again, and we will be sending this to you afterwards, after the program, so that you can enjoy it again. So please keep your cameras on. We want to see your smiling faces and enjoy a nice evening together. Now, before we begin, I would like to connect you and introduce you to the president of Farmingdale State College, Dr. John S. Nader, to say a few words.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you all for joining us this evening for this very special event. I want to give a lot of credit to Matt and the people in alumni and development functions here at Farmingdale State College for making the experience of our alums and our staff who are so loyal to the institution a really great one. When I arrived here about 4.5 years ago, some of you will remember who are on tonight's conversation that I spoke of the power of optimism, and we even began to put out some materials along those lines. Tonight, we moved from the power of optimism to the power of fun. And I'm welcoming Dave Raymond here to do that. Before I do, I just want to, in addition to thanking you all, tell you that the college is in a fabulous position right now. These are very, very difficult and very challenging times. However, our enrollment remains strong. And most importantly, Farmingdale State College has a huge number of bragging points. We're going through, as we speak, a reaccreditation of our nursing program, which has a 100% pass rate in licensure examination, a 100% employment rate as well. We have an employment rate for our graduates, even in this environment, exceeding 90%. We have newly accredited programs. We are truly a shining star within the SUNY system in terms of our outcomes and in terms of our enrollment. And in terms of that outcome, Farmingdale graduates on average earn appreciably more than the university-wide average, and even higher than the average of the university centers. And that's a tribute to the work of our faculty and staff. But as I said just a few moments ago, I am powered by optimism, but this is an evening to talk about the power of fun. Before I do that, as Dave knows, and Matt and Mimi and many of you, I am a huge baseball fan. And I brought a ball with me and my baseball tie that I wore today. And Dave, because I want to rub it in as a Yankee fan, this is an Oneonta Yankees seat cushion from a number of years ago. And Matt, it will serve as a flotation device.
Oh, good.
So, with no further comments, once again, I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for all that you do to make Farmingdale such a success. I turn it back to Matt and to Dave Raymond.
Thank you, President Nader. So without further ado, we'll get started and I'll introduce to you our special guest this evening, David Raymond. I met David, I think 7 or so years ago. I went to a conference down in, I think, Baltimore or Philly, and you were the keynote speaker. It was a great, great event, but even better keynote that resonated with many of us. And fast forward, you're not a stranger to Farmingdale, because then Michelle Johnson hosted you for another professional development opportunity in which you were the keynote, and our colleagues in the region still talk about that event. And so that's David's connection to Farmingdale. Out of college, he was given this unique opportunity to give birth to the iconic mascot we all know, and many of us New York Mets fans love to hate, the Phillies Philly Fanatic. So we'll take it easy on David because he's from Delaware. I'm not sure what's worse, Delaware or Philly, but we'll let you be the judge of that. So yes, he is the guy in the green suit, the one who had a tussle with Tommy Lasorda. And since hanging up the green suit, David has been speaking, sharing his message about the power of fun for more than 10 years now to corporate groups, national nonprofits, colleges, and universities around the world. He works with some of the most famous brands that you recognize, who you are enjoying and finding as fun brands to interact with, and has been exploring with all of his guests how to translate business results and be a secret to finding long-term sustainable happiness by incorporating fun into everything we do. So please join in waving hello on the screen to David Raymond, and take it away, Dave.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Matt. As I said to the Farmingdale crowd that day, once you get past a little bit of area, on 95, and you start moving into what we call the territory of the den of iniquity, Phillies fans, we've even had to put in our contract, Matt, that if we're going to have a Q&A and we'll be live again someday, that I have to be careful, because if I get within 20 feet of a New York Mets or Yankees fan, I could spontaneously combust. So the good news about this is it won't happen tonight. But not only am I a fan of Farmingdale, but of the SUNY system and the beautiful part of our country that it is. I mean, you're right next to Bethpage, which as a golf fan, that's a little bit of a treasure. We certainly understand. So love Long Island, spent quite a bit of time there. A lot of my football player buddies at Delaware were from the Long Island area, and you're blessed to have that, that space, to have this beautiful campus that you have. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I can't wait to talk about, this concept of how powerful fun can be, not only in our professional lives, but really in our personal lives as well.
Great. Thank you, David. And so we're going to get started. And again, as I mentioned, we do have some questions preset to guide the conversation, but by all means, if you have a question, albeit about being a professional mascot and or some of the other things we'll be talking about, specifically about incorporating fun into 2021, by all means, interrupt us. But David, you're a thought leader in using fun to build sustainable long-term happiness. You learned, practiced, and now teach these lessons to others for 40 plus years. And it all started with a performance career, your first job out of college as the original Philly Fanatic for the Philadelphia Phillies. And so I'm going to have to start there. What did you do wrong? Who did you piss off for you to be so punished?
Well, it's great that you said punished, because, my father, David Raymond, he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He was at the University of Delaware for 50 years. He just recently, he was listed number 25 on the most successful college football coaches out of 150 in the history of college football. So I just wanted to be him. I wanted to grow up and play football for him. It might not surprise you that I wasn't thinking about an education. I just wanted to go play football for him. And while I was doing that, I was telling him I wanted to coach football. And as a young person, he used to tell me about how my gift of gab would be helpful for me. And it was something I did naturally and didn't value it now, but would later. And then he would say, now sit down and shut up. So it's ironic that he's the one who got me the job with the Phillies, because he knew Phillies ownership, which he said, you'll never know who you'll meet or what might happen. And then I end up going into a career where I have to be muted for the entire 16 years while I was there. So my dad kind of got his wishes. He found out, he put me in a place where I could learn how to use some skill sets that even I didn't know I had. And it wasn't by design. I thought I was going to work for 2 summers for the Phillies, and then I would go graduate and hopefully find a career in baseball, because once I saw what I could do with my hometown Phillies, there was no such thing as sports marketing back then. I thought, oh my gosh, I don't need to be a football coach. I can actually have a career. So what happened on what was to be my summer off, finish school, and then go see if the Phillies had a job for me, they ended up calling me that spring in '78 and said, do you want the job back this summer? I'm like, sure. And they said, can you stay for all the games? I'm like, that was a perk. Of course I'll stay for the games. They said, we're going to pay you to stay for the games. And I'm like, I'm in. What do you want me to do? And they said, we need you to go to New York and get fitted for the costume. And I started to protest. They said, listen, just go to New York and get fitted for the costume. And that's how it all started.
Well, that's great. And there's more to that. And I remember when we were chatting, you asked the owner, well, what do you want me to do? And he said, so I go get fitted for this costume, and they show me the drawing, and I realized I'm going to get paid to be a Muppet. I was so excited. And when I took it into my fellow interns, a lot of them were from South Philadelphia. And of course, we're all Phillies fans. We understand who we are. And they said, yeah, David, you're going to be a Muppet, but you're going to be challenged with entertaining the same fans that have thrown snowballs at Santa Claus and booed the Easter Bunny. I saw them throw the snowballs at Santa Claus, and frankly, he deserved it. So that's another story. But I wasn't frightened by this. I'm thinking, oh no, I know Philadelphia fans. But the fear came in because the costume was late in its construction, and the first time I put it on was the morning of the evening I was going to go out in front of these fans, and no one had told me other than you're just going to show up. There was no plan, no direction. Like the curtains are going to open up to a show, and I'm going to walk out on stage and have no idea the character I'm supposed to play. So that was where my fear came. And I went to Mr. Giles, who is, his brilliant mind is the reason why the Fanatic was born. And I went into his office and I said, look, Mr. Giles, the costume fits great. I mean, it really looks amazing. What do you want me to do? And he looked at me like he was confused.
And then I really started getting frightened. Like, we got the intern, the guy, the low man on the totem pole. He was the only one not smart enough to say no to this. We got him, the costumes here. Hey, we're going to have a party. And he saw that I was nervous. And he said, David, listen, I just want you to go out and have fun. If you're not having fun, the Fanatic won't be funny. And by all means, the Fanatic is required to be funny to work in front of our fans. So I went tearing out of his office because all the fear had gone away. I realized I'm getting paid to stay for the games. I'm a college student. I know how to have fun. And that's when he yelled at me, G-rated fun, David, G-rated fun. So I had the box that I had to work in. But, that directive really empowered me. It was a much easier thing to do because I understood Phillies fans. I knew what was funny to me. I loved music and dance, and I just kind of mashed up all of that stuff together with some slapstick humor. And over the next couple of months, this personality started to emerge.
Yeah. So that's a nice segue into the business side of things. And many of us are in business and marketing. And in one way or another, marketing is part of almost any and every profession. And you became an influencer and built a multi-million-dollar brand extension to the Major League Baseball team. And how were you able to turn a pile of fur into this presence, this brand, this iconic identity that people recognize, even though many may not even follow baseball? When they see the Philly Fanatic, they know what that's about. So what led to the Fanatic success?
Well, thank you for that. And if you had asked me that 2 weeks after it started and people were giving us rave reviews, I would have had no idea because I just had my head down trying to be silly. But what I've discovered and what we've seen, if you look at it from a marketing perspective, this is always interesting to those of you who are marketing experts. The Phillies have invested millions of dollars into an initiative whose job is to distract the customers from what you're selling. That's a pretty fearless idea. But the beauty in that was that we all need to be distracted. But if we're distracted with something that actually creates memorable moments, I like to call them foul ball moments, because if you're a baseball fan and you go to a ball game, one of the things you dream of is to catch a foul ball or have a foul ball even fall close to you so you could observe that moment happening to somebody else. So the Fanatic were these foul ball moments everywhere he went, both in and around the stadium and around Philadelphia, and very soon around the country and around the world. It is those moments of joy that he creates, which then has people talking about this time that they had, and you're actually selling them on your brand, on who you are as a company, and you're doing that through entertainment. And that's what happened. The personality connected with the Philadelphia fans on an emotional level because I was one of the fans. So part of the personality was the Fanatic's insecurity, his hyperactivity, his desire to be everywhere in and experience the whole game, to bring the fans onto the field, to break down that wall. And he was able to bring that fans experience to see what looked like just a normal average guy, an average fan, being able to jump the railing, be into the fans, working with Pete Rose, some of the other greatest major league players of our time, the umpires. So those moments of joy are truly at the core of what powerful fun is. And it drove the personality unknowingly. I was just trying to keep my job. But looking back and deconstructing it and seeing what it did for my life is what has been born for this pile of fur to turn into a personality that turned into a random acts of kindness machine and creating these really deep emotional connections with everybody he touched over those years.
That's awesome. We're going to segue to the power of fun as a lifestyle. But before I do, I see there's a chat from Bill Jimenez. He's actually the board president for the Alumni Association. And he chatted, did the costume change over time when you were the Philly Fanatic, or was it always the same?
It's a great question, Bill. It has changed over time. And in the beginning, the folks that created the character costume, they were the woman, Bonnie Erickson, was one of Jim Henson's original designers. When she was with Jim Henson, she created Statler and Waldorf. She was on a team of designers that created Miss Piggy. So, she's invested in the lore of of the Muppets, but they were dealing with controlled circumstances. We were dealing with live,
Uncontrolled circumstances.
outdoors, uncontrolled, and so the costume was getting dirty. It was starting to not smell great, and if you're trying to create memorable moments, that's not the moment you want to create. So I started saying, "How do you clean this?" And they said, "Well, you can't. You just have to air it out." And eventually, I just washed it myself with cold water and Woolite in my bathtub, and it worked. And so I'm communicating to the folks in New York that, hey, you can clean this. And then we started working, Bill, with different materials that were lighter. I introduced the folks in New York the mesh fabric that they put for football jerseys. It used to be the tearaway jerseys because it was, nylon material that lasted better than the canvas they were using. And we were suggesting internal and external fabrics that really changed his appearance a little bit. He got brighter. We changed some of the set of his eyes so he looked more cartoonish. So if you look at the original costume in 1980 to what's there today, there's been a whole slew of minor changes throughout the years to make it cooler, lighter, but also make him more fun or more connected to Philadelphia.
So Dave, we often think about fun as having fun, right? We seek to have fun, but you talk, indirectly, you're saying you share fun. And the president has caught up on that. He noticed you talk about the Philly Fanatic, even though you were in the costume, you could be saying me or I, but you talk in the third person. That's an interesting pickup that the president made. You talk about the Philly Fanatic, who was you, as its own entity and personality. And then I think about if you can jump off of that, how you found yourself seeing and experiencing it that way as sharing fun and the lessons you learned along the way, because you have a 4-part piece toolkit to share with our audience. So if you could talk about how it's evolved so much, but then segue to sharing fun rather than having fun, because since meeting you, I've enjoyed fun so much more when I'm sharing it than receiving it. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And that's a gift. That's a gift you're giving. There is a deep rooted in positive psychology. There's a couple of things that you can do daily that help boost your mood. And if you practice them, you can build your sustainable happiness. And gratitude, saying thank you, and being kind are two of the greatest. Gratitude and being kind are two of the strongest things you can do daily to help you build on your happiness. And this concept of sharing fun. And the reason why I talk about the Fanatic as another entity, because it's not me, it's the Philly Fanatic. And that the enlightened leadership at the Phillies treated the character that way. The character couldn't, even though we had backup performers, the Fanatic never was in two places at the same time, even if it wouldn't make that much of a difference or people wouldn't figure it out. So he's in Florida now. The Fanatic is not making any appearances due to the run up to the season in Philadelphia at all. So it's the way they stewarded that, that personality that makes it a whole nother living, breathing entity. He's a living, breathing brand extension for the Phillies. So what I've learned is mostly because I lived this idyllic life until, life came and knocked on my door. Like it does with many people. But for me, it was such a dramatic change to go from this perfect Leave It to Beaver idyllic life up to where my mother was diagnosed with a stage 4 brain cancer. And my mother passed away 8 months after the diagnosis. And during the same time, my marriage had fallen apart. And I'm like, how can I be this clown when my life is completely dissolved? I didn't feel like I was going into, from depression to hopelessness. And I was telling the Phillies to clear my calendar. I can't do this anymore. And they were going to oblige. But I had to make this one additional appearance during the time when I decided I really was in trouble. And when bad decisions are made, they're made when people are feeling hopeless. But I got myself to that appearance. And what happened was Dave Raymond's personality floated away like an out-of-body experience, as would happen all the time. But I never recognized that separation emotionally until that day. And I pulled on the costume and I snapped the head on. And I like to talk about that moment of there was a ringing in my ear when you snap the snap in. And that signaled my departure. The Fanatic's personality was in control. And at the end of that appearance, I went, oh my gosh, that's the best I felt in over this 10 months of struggle and losing my mom and dealing with the issues that the brutality life can send your way. I'm thinking, this is my savior. And so I didn't understand what that meant. All I told the Phillies was, no, don't cancel my appearances. Give me more. And those little doses of that distraction gave me enough strength to get by the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year. And anybody who has suffered that type of loss in life knows it doesn't get better over a short period of time. But the beauty of what we've learned about the FUN of fun and then the power of distracting fun, that is the superpower of powerful fun, is the ability to distract yourself with fun, not when things are going well. When the worst times of your life are happening, you have to figure out a way to distract yourself with fun. And those are the intentional activities like being kind, being grateful, going for a walk, reading, or just getting together with that friend that always makes you smile and laugh. I mean, that's what you need. So the FUN of fun is that fun is a force that we just have to recognize and treat it with great value, because we don't. Oh, fun's something we do just to have a good time, to get together with friends. But fun is a force that's right there for the taking, and all you have to do is value it. Then it works everywhere. I worked at funerals. I worked at events where there were nothing but adults. I got to work for Ethel Kennedy and her family at her home in Hickory Hill, Supreme Court justices' private chambers, a Catholic mass. And in every single one of the places, that dose of fun either helped or solved an issue that this event or this gathering was looking for. And then N in the FUN of fun stands for the battle cry of the fun killer, no, which is a complex issue or lesson. But simply put, we're going to have people, if we're going to use this powerful force everywhere, they're going to want to know, why are we doing this? Wait a minute, somebody's going to get hurt. And our job is to develop serious fun. This is fun that's innovative, creative. This is what Bill Giles taught me over those years. He took the power of fun and injected into my veins. And no means that we have to demonstrate there's great return on investment, and we're experienced. We are the experts in delivering fun. So when I would make an appearance as a Fanatic well into my career, I would have an event organizer go, well, whatever you do, don't go over there. Don't talk to those people. Don't get up on that stage. Don't do that. And as soon as I put the costume on, I went and did every single one of those things that I was told not to do. I discovered quickly that was not the best way to prove that I was good at what I did, even though I would succeed in that environment. Right. You have to go to the leadership and go, this is why we're doing it. This is how we're going to do it. We're great at this. We're going to work with you to create the best powerful fun we can for you. And then guess what? Here's the ROI. And then once they're invested, it's easy. So those are in a short crib note style. Those are the 4 lessons that I didn't know were happening until I needed it to save my life. And that's when I said, hey, there's something here that people should know about, because you can do this on your own.
The director of Farmingdale Athletics is on the call. He asked if you'd come out of retirement just once this spring to put on the Rambo costume.
I'm in.
Tom, I'll send you an email and introduce you.
It might be a budget breaker because I can only give you 5 good minutes.
David, how about appropriate fun? Because we do have some colleagues on the call, and I want to make sure that President Nader doesn't have to send any notices when people are incorporating more fun at work. And you mentioned a funeral. Could you talk about where that balance is, so that as we seek to incorporate more fun into our lives and share more fun to others? And then how do you deal with the Eeyore who just can't embrace and welcome what you have to offer when you're trying to live your best life?
It's a great follow-up question to the N and the FUN of fun. The first thing to recognize, this is the difficult thing with the word. Nat and I were just talking about this today. One of our best assets is that, our brand is called the Power of Fun. One of our most disruptive assets is the fact that our brand is called the Power of Fun. Because let's talk about it in consensus. If I were to ask any of you that are listening to me, and I want you to think about this, tell me what you love to do for fun. Now, you'll be thinking of things that might be varied from the group, but you'll be thinking of, oh, I love to get together with family. Oh, it's great to go to my favorite restaurant and we have this great bartender and I get my favorite drink and I go have a great meal. I travel with my family or my spouse. I love to go to throw parties for my children's special events, my daughter's wedding. Those are all things that we know about are fun. But then what I like to do with the people that we train and with, some of the Fortune 500 executives, these are very serious people. And you say, well, how can fun save your life? Or how can fun make your business better? And that becomes a bigger challenge. So let's pick the funeral for a minute and to give you the idea of what happened. We first got permission. The gentleman who had passed was a 95-year-old Irishman who was an enormous Phillies baseball fan. And in his will, he said he wanted his wake to be fun. And he directed that they have the Fanatic come to his wake. So you're getting permission from, in this case, supreme leadership. You're getting the permission. And then we worked with the family to say, well, how do you want me to come in? When do you want me to come in? And when I come in, this is the type of thing I think I should do. And they go, yes, that would be great. Oh, and go to Aunt Betty and go to his brother Tom, who will be in a wheelchair, but oh my gosh, this guy is going to love seeing you. So we've worked on it. We've developed it. I'm speaking their language. And when the Fanatic came in, there was a huge uproar of laughter and cheers, all celebrating this life well lived. And so I'll say, well, if it works at a funeral, where else would it not work? But you do have to bring in the people who are controlling it, get permission, design it. Design thinking is something that we use consistently in this innovative work. We're going to design it to fit. And the good thing for President Nader is to recognize that it doesn't stop us from doing all the other things we should be doing. What we're wearing for the event, how we're acting at the event, the music that's going to be the event, all of this is customized and done the way you're supposed to. If it's work, you have to show up on time. You have to get your work done. You have to hit your goals. You have to be following your KPIs. We're just saying in all of those cases, where is the injection of fun that we can put in here that will make it more effective? One of the companies we worked with was a distribution company. And what we do is we go in, give them this process, and we have the employees tell us, what do you think we should do? So this was a number of years ago. And in this particular warehouse, they had the office space and the warehouse space contiguous, but you had to get up and move 100 yards to get into the warehouse space. And a lot of times they were doing normal technical stuff to look at the inventory, but sometimes they had to go and look at things on the shelves. Well, one gentleman came to us and said, well, what if I could use a scooter? I'm pretty handy on a scooter. So we got permission. And so he'd get on that scooter and he would go in to do what he needed to do. The other employees started looking around and said, well, can we have a scooter? And they said, sure enough, it increased productivity. And then they started having scooter competitions on their off time and giving away awards. That is designed, powerful fun. It helps productivity, it increases morale, and then it even becomes bigger in that the employees are the ones that are creating it and celebrating it.
I'm going to take it to the audience. If we need to kill some time, I'd like to see by a show of hands or comments, anyone want to see Dave get beat up by Tommy Lasorda?
I do. I've seen it a million times and I want to see it again.
Can we go to the videotape?
Hold on to your seats.
You'll see it here, but I don't know if we'll have the sound, but you'll get the gist of everything.
It's freezing. Dave, you want to moderate what's going on?
Wait, yeah. Tommy lost his mind. I was interviewed recently because of his passing, and we were friends. And for quite a long time, we were good friends. And when I was telling a radio host this, he said, "Oh, so Tommy was okay with it until he wasn't." And that was a beautiful description. This was a bad night. He was trying to lose weight. He hadn't eaten pasta in 2 weeks. He was fighting with Oral Hershiser to see if he could lose more weight than Oral. And then I came out with this dummy, and he specifically on this trip took away the extra Lasorda jersey. So he only had one because he didn't want me to get it. He didn't know how I was getting it because Steve Sachs was actually getting it. And on this particular occasion, Steve came to my locker room and said, I can't get it. Tommy didn't take an extra jersey. So the following night, I had gone into town, got an LA Dodgers uniform, went to a seamstress, had Lasorda stitched right on it, cost me a couple $100. I put it on the dummy. So he couldn't believe I found his jersey. He was mad at the clubhouse guy, thought he made a mistake, and he just lost it. But it was, I mean, that's my job, right? To get the visiting team to lose it a little bit. And I figured I was doing my job, and Tommy was losing his a little bit. And in an article the next day, he said that the Fanatic was violent. And then I retorted in the article when I was being interviewed, wait a minute, I was doing my job. I was attacked by the Los Angeles Dodgers manager, and he was beating me up, and he's calling me violent. I don't get it. So it was beautiful, funny, and if you could only have heard the crowd that day, it was one of the best responses that somebody like me in the job that I had could have hoped for.
We do have someone who'd like to unmute, Bill Steedle. David, Bill is an alumnus, but also professor here at the college. Bill, would you like to unmute?
Sure. Thank you for joining us, Dave. It's great to have you, and your story is very touching. And I was just kind of struck by the analogy of you. As you were putting on the head of the mascot, you were getting out of your own head.
Mm.
And that's really an important lesson. When you're going through a tough time, as frankly I am now, just to get out of your head really helps. And so thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing. And this is fun. So
well, first of all, thank you, Bill. You did some wonderful things right there. You expressed some gratitude for me being here, but you also were vulnerable, and that's an enormous benefit to seeking help and letting people know that that you might be going through a tough time. So that's really important to do. I speak to a lot of athletes and athletic departments, Bill, specifically because as an athlete, they're designed to try to be impervious to struggles. And when they're dealing with something that they feel very uncomfortable about with sharing, not only outwardly, they could be performing at peak performance, and then something would happen where they would make a bad decision. And people are like, I can't believe that happened. Why would he or she do that? It's because that they are uncomfortable with letting people know that they have this vulnerability and they need some help. So, and I learned those things. I think that the analogy to the Fanatic's personality getting out of my head that I tell everybody is that you don't need that personality. What you need is the understanding that you need to give yourself a break. And one way to get yourself out of your own head are to do things that distract you. So puzzles, I mean, you hear about Sudoku, jigsaw puzzles, sketching, doodling, reading, going for a walk, or meditating are all great ways to put your own Fanatic on and get yourself out of your head. So Bill, I really, really appreciate you making that comment about getting out of your head, because that is one of the intentional activities that we need to do to build unhappiness.
So David, you may not be surprised to hear that in my role and involved in fundraising, philanthropy is fun also. And you're joined by many of Farmingdale's greatest donors and generous, loyal supporters. They give to Farmingdale because they believe in our mission. They show gratitude and pay it forward. They've witnessed and or experienced it firsthand, what the impact of philanthropy can make for a community, and in this case, our students, and it feels good. So with philanthropy being fun, and you growing up with your dad, David Raymond, the legendary coach of the University of Delaware, whose football stadium bears his name, you grew up around philanthropy, especially in higher ed. And I was hoping you could share with us, in your perspective and in your experience, tell us how you see philanthropy as being fun.
Well, it certainly is, and kudos to everybody. It is this idea of giving and being kind. It's so much more beneficial to the giver than the receiver many times. As I read Murray's comments about making his donation, he said it was a time in my life where I wanted to start thanking people for giving me the support I needed to get where I am today. And that is the fun in philanthropy, is that you're being kind, and being kind in and of itself is a wonderful way to boost your mood and be happier. My dad was funny because he was singularly focused on building a great football program at Delaware. And he understood the benefits of philanthropy and people giving to the university. So his deal was, I'm going to build a legacy here that people will want to connect to. So if we win, if we perform well, and then if we graduate our kids and they become great eye surgeons or the Supreme Court justice in their environment, and they can say, I went to Delaware, I played football at Delaware. That was how we were going to build on philanthropy. And it worked. But as a kid, all the way moving through my job with the Phillies, I was always around it, but I didn't understand it until, and I think everybody on the call will appreciate this experience. I get asked to be on the board for a Montessori school. It was local in the North Wilmington area where I lived all those years, working for the Phillies. It was a quick jump on 95 and an easy 20-minute ride to the stadium. Well, this is a beautiful Montessori school that my son had gone to. And I appreciated the parents, and they asked me to be on the board. And so, should I get on the board? Sure, I'll be on the board. And I'm naive. And then I realized, oh, my job is to work on my network and get money to raise for this new edition. It was about $2.5 million you need to raise. And now, again, I felt the fear that I did with the Fanatic. Like I said, oh, geez, I don't think I have the skill sets to measure up to this. Well, I started looking and talking to people who they might know. And somebody said to me, oh, you know what? Charles Cawley, who was the founder of MBNA and the affinity program for credit cards, he created that, and he created this dynasty in Wilmington. And he was so powerful. And so somebody gives me a number to his office, and I call him up expecting to get an assistant or a gatekeeper. He picks up the phone and says, hello, Charles Cawley. And my mouth almost dropped open. I was like, Mr. Cawley, this is Dave Raymond. I'm the Fanatic for the Philadelphia Phillies. I wonder if I could talk to you. And he said, sure, Dave, but what's up? What can I help you with? I told him I was raising for Montessori school and we were looking for a donation, and this was the project. He said, listen, Dave, we do not give to private schools. It's just one of these things that we don't do. We do a lot of great things, but we don't give to private education. However, if you can figure out a way over the next year to give me 12 appearances by the Fanatic, I'll give your project $50,000. I'm like, well, all right, let me talk to the Phillies. And Phillies, again, enlightened leadership. They understood making Charles Cawley happy might be a great thing for us to do. And so I go like this. I call him next day. He writes a check for $50,000. I'm king of the Montessori board for a few weeks. And the beautiful thing was, though, about fun in fundraising was Charles did not have the Fanatic go to any fancy affairs within MBNA. We didn't do any entertaining for their employees. Every single thing he had me to do was charities that were invested in and an event to make it better. So not only was he giving to me from an environment that they don't give to, he saw the value in delivering fun at these events that they were fundraising for. And that connected all the dots for me. You know, it's people who have the ability to give. And we're very impressed with the size of donations sometimes. If these people have the ability to give, but they do it in a way to be able to kind of daisy chain the benefits. And that's why funding has some criteria so that people can say, okay, if I do this, then I can see 5 other good things that are going to happen. And that ever since then, it just gave me the spirit of why people do what they do. They want to create a legacy. Yes, they want to be proud of giving, but they want their money to do directly good things for people that need it, that they're going to be able to see and witness those good things, which is why we give to the institutions that built our education and gave us opportunity. And what Murray said was to broaden my horizons. If it weren't for my dad, I'd probably be toiling away somewhere as a football coach that had been fired 2 or 3 times and dragging my family around the country. He broadened my horizons. So one of the things I do frequently with my dad's foundation is raise money to give to the University of Delaware and to give of my own time personally. So because I'm proud of it, it's like a family. And that's what you're developing here, Matt, with this group is to recognize their good work, thank them for it, and show them how vitally important they are, and then they can feel even better about it. That's what makes me thrilled about being part of this event as well.
Indeed. And I think that's a great way for us to start segueing to wrapping it up and doing dinner. I certainly want to make sure we don't leave anyone out if they have anything else to say. And then President Nader, I'll let you close it out with some closing remarks and reflection. The one thing I will say as I begin to shut up is, at the very least from that story, David, it reminds me that every and any credit card statement that I've received ever in my life, the check goes to Delaware. Every credit card is stationed in Delaware.
So you said that anything worse than Delaware was Philadelphia. Now, see, we're
You're right.
extracting
There's
something
one
from your
thing
wallet.
worse.
Dave, before I wrap, it's John. I have a quick question, and this may seem a strange one. Is there a kind of network or affinity group among mascots? There are very few people who've done this, virtually none, other than maybe the chicken at the level that you do. Do you come to know one another and kind of share things that make people happy or work on a field, in your case, that might help them?
Well, thank you for the question. And somebody needs to get the rim shot ready. Yes, we're all part of the same fraternity. Actually, it is a wonderful network. We're like comedians that, and many of the organizations, the major league organizations, they have a seminar where all the performers get together and share ideas and help, how can we help build our brand? How can we fundraise for the community? So they get together and share it. It's an amazing fraternity. We say fraternity, and some really talented people. The things that would surprise you are how talented these folks are physically. I'll tease a little thing. I can't tell you for sure, but we're working on a reality treatment that we're pitching to some very big networks soon that is doing just that, opening up the world of mascots and showing you how talented the people are and how passionate they are. So keep your fingers crossed for us. We might have something for you to stream soon.
I cannot thank you enough for this event. Matt, thanks to everyone in your area. I saw Mimian and Regina, and I saw Babette. If I missed someone, it's inadvertent. One of the things that Matt has brought to us in the last few months is outreach to our alums and really to our campus community to do interesting and fun things, and to continuously say thank you for all that you do for our students and for the college, and to help us meet our mission. Matt is very creative. He has great people in that area, and we are really focused not only on fundraising, but on friend raising and now fundraising as well, which I think will help us all going forward. These are challenging times, but events like this help us come together and be better as a campus and really better as a people, to be generous to one another and to hear each other's stories and have some fun. Matt, I can't thank you enough for pulling this together. I thought it was a very creative idea. Dave, thank you for your time, and Matt for assisting, and all of you, whether you're a faculty member, a member of the campus community in some other capacity, a donor, an alum, all of the above, as some of you all are. Thank you very much. Better times are ahead of us and more fun is ahead of us.
Indeed. Thank you all. Have a great evening. Safe drive home.
Thank you, everybody.
Don't
Go to
stand
the
up
exit.
yet. Don't stand up till the camera's off.
That's right.
Hey, Matt, I know you
everybody.
wanted to get a quick screenshot as well, correct?
We did. We grabbed some.
Oh, great. Perfect.
But you could all take yourselves off mute and say goodnight.
Bye. Good night, everybody.
Bill-
Thank you.
Bill Steedle, we'll do a scooter race.
Good
night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Nice seeing
This
everyone.
was great.
Take care, everybody. Nice job.
Take care, Mike.
Bye.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye,
See you,
Jeannie.
Jeannie.
Night,
Thanks.
Tiffany.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you, Bahar.
Bye, Bahar.
Bye.
Bye, Bahar.
Good night, Harvey. Harvey's still on the stock exchange. He's
Harvey, you're
He's
still
selling
there.
stock.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye, Kathy.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Thanks
thank
a
you.
lot. Take
Bye,
care.
Mark.
Enjoy.
Catch up this week,
you.
later this week, or early next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you, President Nader. Bye now.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, Kathy.
Good night, Matt. So cool.